Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We are 5 weeks away, a little over 5 weeks away from what I believe is the greatest, most important election of our lifetime. In November, we go to the polls, and we can either vote for 4 more years of this mess that we have endured now for over 3.5 years, or we can vote in a man who puts America first, a man whose leadership is like none other, a man who will lead not just here in the United States of America, but across the world. We're going to be discussing that and many other things here on God and Country. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Reed Cooley, sir, how are you?
I'm making it Dan Happy National Coffee Day.
Is that what today is?
It is today. Yep, I'm gonna have a holiday for every future episode that we do. And yes, there's a National Coffee Day, and today is it.
Okay, well, I did not realize that. If I would have known Reed, I would have had us coffee.
Well, you would have gotten rid of that giant glass of sweet tea you had there every time you had some
Probably would have
coffee.
just added. I would have just added another cup of coffee. I don't want to get rid of my sweet tea.
I don't know if I could sit next to you wired on both sweet tea and coffee for an episode.
Yeah, it would be interesting. That's for sure. And so, but Reed, guess what September 27th is?
What is it?
Um, it breaks my heart that that it's National Coffee Day, but you don't know what September 27th is.
What is September 27th?
It's my birthday. It's my
Really?
birthday. Yes. And so when ladies and gentlemen, whenever you watch this episode, I will be 43 years old. And so, Reed, I am getting old. My body feels it. My body can feel um, getting close to 50.
At least
It's
you don't have what Biden seems to have, I believe. So
oh, yeah, or what even Kamala Harris seems to have, and Tim Walz seems to have. All of those seem to have. Reed, we're just a little over 5 weeks, and from what I believe is, I don't think there's ever been an election in not just in my lifetime, but in the lifetime of our nation. I mean, whenever you look at the world, right, and you look at history, the United States of America is it's a very young nation, right? I mean, you look at Rome and you look at, the Middle East, and you look at Europe and you look at all these nations around the world, all these different countries. I mean, they've been around for a long time. I mean, the Middle East, when you look at the Middle East is where, that's where the Garden of Eden was at. I mean, it was in the Middle East, and it was over in that little pocket of the world. And I mean, so people in those countries have been around for ever since the beginning of time. So when you look at the United States of America and you go back to 1776 and you fast forward to today,
we're a very young country.
very young country. But at the same time, we are one of the most blessed countries in the world. I would say the most blessed country to ever be. And I think it's for a lot of reasons. I think that God has blessed our nation for lots of reasons. Whenever you look at our country, you look at our nation, you look at America, and just how advanced we are. Yes, we're a very young nation, but we're a very advanced nation. I mean, just look at our military. Look at the homes that we live in. I mean, kings did not live in homes as beautiful as what God has blessed us with. And I mean, just having running water, electricity. I mean, all of these things that we have here that we just take for granted many times in our nation. I said all that to say we're a very young nation, but we're a very advanced nation. And this election, since you could go back to 1776 up until now, this election is by far the most important election. And I know we say that every time, but Reed, this is it. I mean, this is it. And whenever you have a woman that is running for president, and you have her vice president, and as whacked out as they are, and as radical as they are, and as the things that they believe, that is just crazy. And whenever you look at the things that they believe and the things that they are okay with, it is lunacy. Whenever you look at all of that, and then you look on the other side and you have Donald Trump. Yeah, he's not perfect. He has his flaws, but so we all do. We all have our flaws. And he's an America first president, man. He is pro-military. He is pro-Second Amendment. He is pro-religious liberty. I mean, you just go right down the list. He lines up with us on, I would say, 90% of the issues. And so whenever you contrast the two, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, there is a major contrast. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're looking at the difference between affordable groceries on one ticket and World War III on the other. I don't think that the difference becomes any more stark.
And very well put. And I agree. And that's a great point. You have World War III on one hand, and the Kamala Harris is elected. Make no mistake. Do you think seriously Kim Jong Un there in North Korea is going to take Kamala Harris serious? I mean, come on. I mean, they are laughing at these people. I mean, you have a gentleman that or a man that is running as her vice president who voted to put tampons in boy bathrooms. I mean, seriously. I mean, the world is laughing at these people, how crazy they are, and how just lunacy that they are. You think Iran is going to take them serious? You think Russia is going to take them serious? China is going to take them serious? Absolutely not. But whenever you take Donald Trump, they absolutely take him serious. I mean, they are absolutely 100% going to, they're going to make sure that they dot the I and cross the T's whenever you have Donald Trump in office because they know that Donald Trump means business.
And the military industrial complex right here in this country takes Donald Trump seriously as well. I mean, I think that what we've seen over the last several years with Trump, throughout his entire political career, I think even he still denies that he has a political career at all. But at this point, it's fair to say that throughout his career, all the way going back to 2015, he has had a way of talking about foreign policy that resonates with the American people. And I don't think that he's been consistently anti-war, but he can ridicule the absolute absurdities of U.S. foreign policy in ways that resonate so well with the American people that the military-industrial complex absolutely fears it. And I think that we're already beginning to see bits of that throughout this election season.
Whenever you look at and you bring up, the world and you bring up foreign policy, what is the greatest foreign policy that a person can have? And I'll put it in two words. Two words. Foreign policy. What is the greatest foreign policy a person can have? It's very simple, in my opinion. America first. That is the greatest foreign policy that a person could have. You put America first, everybody else second, third. You are the president of the United States of America. We are not voting you in as president of Iran, of Iraq, of Russia, China. We're not even voting you in as president of Israel or president of France or president of, you just name the country. We're voting you in as president of the United States of America. So every decision that you make as president needs to be America first.
Correct.
America first.
Correct. And consider it this way. Let's say there is a father of a household who his own children are starving, they're sick, they're in all sorts of bad shape, and instead of taking care of his own kids and the problems inside of his own household, he leaves and goes to take care of the neighbor's kids ahead of his own, or maybe even the kids in some distant neighborhood somewhere else. We would rightfully ridicule that man as a bad father because he has abandoned his paternal duty to his own family. That the responsibility of any leader, no matter what kind of institution that they're in charge of, whether it's a country, whether it's a company, whether it's an organization or whatever it is, as a leader, their only responsibility is to lead the people who put them there in the first place, to lead the people they're responsible for leading. It's not to defeat Russia or to defeat Vladimir Putin or to bring about peace in the Middle East. No, it is to take care of, in this case, the American people. But instead of an America first foreign policy like what you just said, we really have an America last policy, and that's really started to show. And Trump, for all of his faults, has brought that to the forefront of our politics over the last several years. Despite the fact that the man obviously has some warts on him here and there, I'm still pro-Trump. You're still pro-Trump. But the man has made the America First foreign policy a legitimate talking point, a legitimate position in our political discourse.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be America first. My dad, he pastors Faith Baptist Church in Gulfport, Mississippi. And Faith Baptist Church has a lot of ministries. And I pastor a church in Slidell Community Baptist Church. And one thing that my dad taught me was, the church has a lot of ministries. There's a lot of ministries that are out of Faith Baptist Church. But my dad always taught me that the only way that these ministries survive is if the church is doing good. If the church fails, these ministries fail. It has to be church first. If the church is not succeeding, if the church is not growing, then these ministries that are out of that church are going to fail also. And so when you look at our country, at the United States of America, whenever you look at this nation, and whenever you have a president, that is putting Ukraine ahead of America and putting all these other countries ahead of our nation, it hurts. It doesn't just hurt us when it comes to the economics and the economy. It hurts us on whenever it comes to just a love for our country. It puts a sour taste in people's mouth whenever our leader, our president, is putting other countries ahead of the country that they're supposed to be serving. And we could bring this down a little bit closer to home. You take supervisors. How would you feel? Every county in Mississippi, we have 82 counties. Every county has 5 supervisors, right? There's 410 supervisors in Mississippi. Harrison County has 5 supervisors. We have Marlon Ladner, we have Nathan Barrett, we have Dan Cuevas, we have Rebecca Powers, and we have Kent Jones. Those are our 5 supervisors in Harrison County. How would the people of Harrison County feel? And they're doing a good job, by the way. But how would Harrison County feel if those 5 supervisors were voting to give all of our money in Harrison County? We're going to ship it to Lamar County. Now, look, I have nothing against Lamar County, right? I mean, that's Mississippi. That's an hour and a half up the road. I'm for Lamar County, but Lamar County needs to take care of Lamar County. Harrison County has to take care of Harrison County, and those supervisors are elected to take care of Harrison County, and they are taking care of Harrison County, and they're doing, in my opinion, they're doing a good job taking care of Harrison County. Take the mayor of Gulfport. The mayor of Gulfport is Billy Hughes, and he's not running again. He is finishing out this term, and then we're going to have an election next year, and we'll have a new mayor of Gulfport. Mayor Billy Hughes has done a good job in Gulfport, and he's a friend. He's done a great job. We're going to miss him as he leaves and as he goes back into the private sector. He's done a good job as mayor. But how would the people of Gulfport feel if he was given all of the Gulfport money? The taxes are coming. He's saying, I'm going to ship this money over to Bay St. Louis. What about the mayor of
He wanted to
Biloxi?
stay in office for a while.
No, he wouldn't. He would not get reelected. What about Biloxi? Mayor Fofo Gillis. He's a good friend. And what if he was doing the same? What if he was saying, matter of fact, we're going to take all the money that's coming in from Biloxi and we're going to ship it to some city up in North Dakota? He wouldn't be the mayor very long. That's exactly what I'm talking about whenever I say America First president. We need a president that puts America first, not last. The same with your elected officials and your supervisors. The same when it comes to city council. The same when it comes to aldermen. The same whenever it comes to mayors. The same when it comes to governors. We have Governor Tate Reeves. I think Governor Tate Reeves is doing a good job, and we've had a lot of we've had a lot of growth in Mississippi. The last several years. I think he's doing a great job. He's fighting to bring jobs here. He's not fighting to bring jobs to South Dakota. Kristi Noem has to do that. She has to fight to bring jobs to South Dakota. He's fighting to bring jobs here. And that's what a governor does. He's a Mississippi First governor. And we've got to have the president that's a America First president. Kamala Harris is not America First. But she's not America First. Tim Walz is not America First. Donald Trump is America First. J.D. Vance is America First. And those are the kind of people that we need to vote in to office. Whenever it comes to the President of the United States of America, we need someone who is America first.
Well, whenever we talk about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and Joe Biden, for example, the closest thing these people have to a loyalty to America is to this sort of like dystopian, totalitarian, wokeified version of America that fortunately does not yet exist, but seems to exist more and more every day. They have an alternate view, an alternate cultural vision for America that they want to bring fully to life. And that is the closest thing they have to a loyalty to this country, I think. And what you just said about our governor, Tate Reeves, that really does remind me of something I do want to say about another governor, Josh Shapiro, up in Pennsylvania. I'm sure you saw last week there was this just disgusting, absolutely reprehensible footage of what was basically a campaign event that Volodymyr Zelensky was doing for Kamala Harris. So Zelensky landed into Pennsylvania, maybe not just a key swing state, but the key swing state in this election, landed there in a C-17 bomber and was doing a series of photo ops with Josh Shapiro and all these other Democratic officials here at this munitions factory, a weapons factory, where we were manufacturing weapons to send to Ukraine so that they could use them against Russia, which, by the way, is still not a country that we're at war with. But Josh Shapiro was there, standing next to, shoulder to shoulder with Volodymyr Zelensky, the governor. Josh Shapiro, he has this diabolical, evil smile on his face as he's signing these artillery shells that are going to be used once again to kill people in a country on the other side of the world, a country that we're not even at war with. And then something began to click with me. I thought about the kind of shape that Pennsylvania is in right now, economically, morally, so on and so forth. Have you been to Pennsylvania in the last several years by chance? I've gone to Pennsylvania several times over the last couple of years just for like different political events that I've been involved with, political campaigns, stuff like that. Pennsylvania is, I think, a microcosm of what is happening to the rest of the country in a lot of ways because of the kind of shape that its cities are in. Philadelphia, for example, it was our first nation's capital. It was once a beacon of liberty. I mean, it was just the hometown of Benjamin Franklin was once a great city, and for the majority of our country's young history, it has been a great city. But you go to Philadelphia today, and it's heroin addicts shooting up in the streets. It's homeless people everywhere. It's crime all over the place. It's really just that city and every other city across Pennsylvania has collapsed. And this is what clicked with me when I saw Josh Shapiro signing those artillery shells with a smile on his face. It really should not surprise us that elected officials from mayors and governors like Josh Shapiro, all the way to Democratic candidates for president, who inflict so much economic misery and suffering on us here in this country, are so glad to inflict misery on people of another country. You know, these people do have a God that they worship, and that God is death. That God is destruction. So, you know, like I said, it seems to be that each of these people have two different halves of their political personality, we might say. One half is that they enjoy watching death and destruction happen abroad because it's exactly what they enjoy looking at, and it's just what they love enforcing in this country, enacting in this country, bringing upon the people of this country. The same governors and mayors and senators in this country who run their states into absolute oblivion are the most keen on going into war in other parts of the world, and that's not for no reason.
Reed, I agree. And while we're talking about foreign policy, just the other day, Clay Higgins, I don't know if you saw what Congressman Clay Higgins said. He's a congressman out of Louisiana. He said he made a statement about talking about the Haitian migrants, and I've read where he deleted his tweet, and I'm not sure the whole because I didn't get to read that. I just read a little bit about what was said, supposedly what he said, and he basically said, that the Haitian migrants need to go back home is what he was basically saying, and I agree that if you were here illegally, I don't care what country you're from. I don't care if you're from Mexico. I don't care if you're from Canada. I don't care if you're from Israel. I don't care if you're from, I don't care where you're from. If you're here illegally, you need to go home. You need to go back to where you come from. 100%. We want migrants here. We want people to migrate here, but we want them to do it legally. And that goes back to that foreign policy. And I read also today where the White House is approving at faster rate than ever about these people that are coming here to America as far as making them citizens is because they are wanting to vote.
Yes.
It ain't about, oh, we love these people coming in from other countries. We want to take care, and they want to quote Bible verses at me and say we've got to take care of your neighbor and all this stuff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've got news for you. One of the first things that Nehemiah did whenever he went back to rebuild Jerusalem, he built a wall. And they didn't just let any and everybody in. They had a wall built first. And so if we want to talk Bible, and whenever you're talking about your neighbor, he's not talking about this neighbor, talking about another country where people are trying to come into your country illegally. No, 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 not at all. And so I'm not sure all the contrast of what Clay Higgins was trying to say, but I agree with the point of if you're here illegally, you need to go back home. We don't just need to be rubber stamping people that have gotten here illegally and just, you're a citizen now. We're going to make you a citizen. When you have thousands of people that are trying to get here legally.
The
You know,
Democratic Party's only immigration policy, their only immigration policy is to import more Democrat voters. That's it.
Absolutely.
If illegal immigrants voted majority Republican, the Democrats would have built a wall 40 years ago.
That's right. 100%. They would never let them in this country if they voted Republican. You're right. They would not let them here.
Why do you think they want to keep Cuban immigrants out?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it goes back to that foreign policy. It goes back to America first. America first. An America first president wants people only coming here that come here legally. A president that is not America first will just open up the borders. They could give a rip as long as they're going to get to stay in power because that's what they just want power. And it doesn't matter to them. I've come to the conclusion, Reed, that it doesn't even matter to them if the country's doing well or if the country's not doing well. As long as they're in power, they don't care.
And the evil man will burn down his own country just to rule over the ashes.
Absolutely. And that's what's happening. They're letting these people come in, and just They are destroying cities. They are going to destroy states, and they will destroy this nation. You just look at, as you were talking about earlier, you just look at these cities that are ran by Democrats. Let's talk about Mississippi for a moment. Take Jackson, Mississippi, right? Jackson, Mississippi, the largest city in Mississippi. It's the largest city. It's the capital city. They can't even have true clean water. We're talking about Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi. Why is that? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you, it is because of the mayor. They are ran by a Democrat. I mean, Democrats control that city. And so, whenever you look at the city of Jackson, Mississippi, they can't even have clean water. And the reason is because it goes back to they're being ran by Democrats. And I don't mean to hurt people's feelings, but just look at the policy. Look at the results. Look at the policy. That's all you got to do. When you look at the results of what a Democrat ran city leads, just look at the results
The
of the city.
outcome should always be treated as the goal of any policy.
Yeah, just look at the policy. Look at the results. Look at their policy, and look who's putting it into play: the Democrat Party. And so it goes back to where I know we've been talking a lot about foreign policy here, but it goes back to the best foreign policy a country can have is America first. That's the best foreign
And
policy.
it's the foreign policy of our founding fathers, too, by the way. There's nothing radical about wanting to implement the foreign policy of the founding fathers, of George Washington, of Thomas Jefferson, of even John Quincy Adams many years later.
And that goes to every country, not just America.
Every country has a right to look out for their own self interest.
Absolutely. If I'm an Israeli, I want Benjamin Netanyahu to be Israel first. That's why he went right back after Hamas, because he's Israel first. Listen, I get it. With if I'm Russia, if I'm Putin, I'm gonna be Russia first. If I'm China, I want a president that's gonna be China first. That's what I want in America. That's all I'm asking for. Is just be America first. At the end of the day.
The US government really does seem to represent everybody else in the world except for the American people, which is the exact inverse of its intended function.
Now, while we're talking about America first, let's talk about the 101st Airborne Division for a moment. And Reed, why don't you give us an update of things that you know of what you've read and what you've seen, have heard about the 101st Airborne Division?
Well, this is some pretty alarming stuff. So it was just last week that the 101st Airborne Division in the U.S. Army, very famous division, was deployed once again to the Middle East. Now, something important to keep in mind is that the 101st is renowned for its experience not just in Iraq but also in Afghanistan. So the fact that they've been redeployed, they were told to leave Kentucky, they flew to the Netherlands. They're going to be leaving the Netherlands and departing for the Middle East. That is a sign. This is a division that exists for one thing, which is combat, which is fighting. And the U.S. government would not be sending them there if it did not expect to put them in use somehow. So this is a pretty alarming development here, Dan.
Do you know? Did they say how many went? Have they
No,
said?
I'm not sure exactly how many troops that is, and it's pretty difficult to find that out because the Pentagon does not want to disclose those kinds of numbers with every announcement that it gives out.
Yeah, and I get that. I wouldn't expect them to, and I wouldn't want to put that out either as far as how many we've sent and all what we've sent and all that. That just goes, there's so many things that I want to say about that, but the most important thing I'm going to say about the 101st Airborne is we better be praying. We as Christians, we as conservatives, we as people of faith, we better be praying and asking God to, one, be with our military. Be with these men and women that have been sent over to the Netherlands that are going to be going into the Middle East. We need to be praying that God to give them wisdom. We need to be praying for their protection, and we as Christians, I say this a lot, and I know some people, they might disagree with me, but I think that the greatest thing that we can do for our country, the greatest thing we can do for our country is pray. And the
Absolutely.
greatest thing that we can do for our military is to pray. I appreciate our military. I appreciate the Army and the Marines and the Navy and the Air Force and the Coast Guard and all of our military. I appreciate them so much, and I'm so thankful for those men and women who put on that uniform so we can enjoy doing the things that we enjoy here in the great United States of America. That's why we better be praying, asking God to be with these men and women, keep them safe, not just them while they're there, but their families. Every single man, every single woman that is shipped overseas, we have to remember that most of them have a husband or a wife back here. They have children back here. They have a mom or a dad back here. They have brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins. They have friends back here. We need to be praying for them that God will keep, especially their their close family, especially like their wife or their husband, their children. We need to be praying that God will protect them, God will keep them safe. So that way, while they're over there, they can be focused on the job at hand. And they don't have to be worried about what's happening back here. And so we need to be praying, asking God to be with, the 101st Airborne Division, that God would be with their leadership, their leaders, whatever generals are there running, what's happening. We need to pray that God will lead them and direct them
And
and
pray
show
that they
them
get brought back home.
absolutely quickly, quickly. You know, I do not believe that America is the world's police. I don't believe that we are to be fighting in wars that we don't need to be fighting in. I just don't. I think that we are to America first. We're to take care of our country. I do think there are times to when America must retaliate. Whenever 9/11 happened.
It's a just war theory. It's an old Christian idea.
Yeah, you bomb here, you attack us, you come after, our bases. Yes, retaliation, absolutely. But I don't think we need to be going and fighting other people's wars, especially in these Muslim countries. Because listen, ladies and gentlemen, they were fighting long before America, and they're going to be fighting for the rest of time until Jesus is ruling and reigning. They're going to be fighting. That is family fighting family. And so it all goes back to Abraham. That's family fighting family. And they're going to be fighting. We're talking about world peace, and it's not happening, not anytime soon. It will, when it does happen, it's going to be to fight against God Himself. And so it's not going to happen anytime soon. There's nothing we can do, that's going to cause peace, world peace. And so we got to take care of our country. We got to take care of our country. They won't ever. You talk about Zelensky being here with Ukraine. Why do we keep sending him millions of dollars, billions of dollars, so it can be funneled back into the Democrat Party?
Yeah, it's a giant money laundering operation, is all that it is.
Absolutely. And so just seeing the pictures of them signing and the pictures of him over there and pretty much doing a photo op for Kamala Harris is
He was
basically
he was
what it is.
essentially given $375 million in exchange for campaigning for Kamala Harris. That's
Absolutely.
exactly what happened.
100%. And so that needs to be on her campaign finance report. That needs to be an in-kind donation that she needs to be reporting. Of course she won't, but that's what needs to happen. Money needs to stop.
It gets even worse than that. So, did you see that Zelensky actually reached out to President Biden after that and requested that Biden sign into law even more aid that would be, quote, Trump proof? Did you see that?
No, I did not
So,
see
so
that.
Zelensky is wanting even more military aid going to his country that will be Trump proof, meaning that if Donald Trump comes into office next year, Trump will not be able to take that aid away. What Zelensky is asking to do here is to supersede the constitutional authority of our president. Zelensky is wanting to overturn the constitutional authority delegated to our president, which is utterly insane. So we need to get this cargo pant, t-shirt wearing tyrant out of our country. He doesn't need another dime, and Donald Trump is right on this. The fighting has to stop. We need to make a deal already. See, I think the biggest difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, as far as I can tell, on the issue of Zelensky and Ukraine, is that Democrats prioritize Ukraine winning, whereas Trump and many Republicans, although not all of them, prioritize ending the war, ending the bloodshed. And that's the correct position to take here. Keep America out of it. You get America out of it. You get our dollars out of it. Then you end this bloodshed, and you end Ukraine and Ukrainian men being forced to die in an unwinnable war.
Looks like you've been sleeping well,
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
and you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. MyPillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new MyPillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit mypillow.com.
So since we're talking about the election a little bit, let's transition to the election and talk about this for a moment. When you look at evangelicals, so the evangelicals, whenever you take 100 evangelicals, and whenever I say evangelicals, I'm talking about every religion that professes Christ, that professes that Jesus is God, right? That's evangelicals. That would be Baptist, that would be Pentecostal, that would be Catholic, that would be Church of Christ, that would be Methodist, that would be Presbyterian, that would be, those are the religions. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but those
So
are.
I'm a little bit confused there. So as I understand the evangelical categorization, it doesn't necessarily include like Roman Catholics, Orthodox, and even like Mormons, which you and I probably don't even consider to be Christians. But evangelical is not synonymous with Christian. It's some more specific categorization than that, right?
Well, I'm talking about here in America.
Right.
When you look at evangelical, so yes, it would not be talking about Mormons. It would not be talking about Muslims. It would not be talking about, Hindu. It would not be talking about Buddhists. It would not be talking about none of those type of religions. It is only the religions that believe in Jesus. It was what, and if you look at different charts, there will be different. Some will leave off some different religions
Yeah,
depending on the
and that's what
chart.
I'm confused about. Like which denominations are really included here? But okay.
What you look at is, what do they believe about Jesus? And so, like the Baptists, Pentecostals, and Catholic, we believe Jesus was the Son of God, born of Mary. So, like the Mormons or Muslims do not. They believe something different. And so, but my point is, so when you take evangelicals, those religious organizations, and you take 100 of them, 80 to 90 of them have a very high approval rating of Donald Trump.
80 to 90%.
80 to 90%.
It's that low.
So yeah, so if you take 100, 80 to 90 would have a strong approval rating of Donald Trump. But Reed, here's what scares me. 50 of them, 50 of the 100 are not even registered to vote. If you take 100 evangelicals, 50 of the 100 are not even registered to vote. So 80 to 90 of them say, we love Donald Trump. We need him as president. 50 of them are not even registered to vote. And then only about 30 of them are going to go out and vote. So it is unbelievable when you look at evangelical Christians, at number one, how many are not even registered to vote? And then number two, how many of them don't even vote?
So do we know whether voter registration has always been that low among American evangelicals?
Always.
It's always been that low.
Yep. It's always been that well. And now some different religions are better than others at voting. And so like Pentecostals do really well at getting out and voting. And then different segments of the Baptists do really well at getting out and vote. Catholics do predominantly really well at getting out and vote. But some of these religions do not do very good whenever it comes to getting their people out to vote. And it's for lots of different reasons. Some people just have different beliefs whenever it comes to voting. And there's some religions that don't even believe you ought to have a driver's license and all those type of things. But at the end of the day, if 90% of the evangelicals in our country would vote, Kamala Harris doesn't stand a chance.
Right.
It's not even close. We never lose another election. If we just have if we have like 70%, I think it's 70% of evangelicals, if we had 70% of them registered to vote, and if they would vote, we would never lose another election.
So how do you change this?
You change it, a couple of things. One, messaging. You message, and just talk to as many people as you possibly can. You talk to pastors, preachers. I was going through my list. I have a list of 15,000 churches in America, 15,000 Baptists that are independent churches that are not associated with the Southern Baptists or American Baptists or Missionary Baptists, but they're their own church. They're independent Baptists, and there's about 15,000 of them here in our country. And then if you take the missionary Baptists, and there's another many thousands. Then you take the Southern Baptists, there's another 43,000. And then you take, then you get to the Pentecostals, and there are several million, people in the Pentecostal, and there are several million in the Baptist, there are several million in the Catholic, and there are several million in all these different religions. And if you take the leadership, and if you get the leadership on board of doing voter registration drives and just getting people to register to vote and doing that at your church, do it at your church. You can have a voter registration drive at your church, and then getting as many people as you possibly can to register to vote, and then help get them to the polls come November. Voting has already started in some states. I mean, they've already begun to vote in some states. And so it is so important that we get our family, our friends, people we go to church with, we get them registered to vote. If we could do that, and of course it takes a lot of money, to get that messaging out. And I've been talking to the Trump campaign about this very thing. And I'm just telling them the importance of talking to evangelicals, because I'm afraid what happens is the Trump campaign, they think that they have the evangelicals, that they have their vote. So when you look at the evangelicals, yes, the Trump campaign does have the vote of the evangelicals that are going to go out and vote. So those 30 of the 100 that's going to go out and vote, yeah, they pretty much have that vote wrapped up.
It's an untapped gold mine is really what's there.
Absolutely. And the Trump campaign right now, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can see, and I'm very connected to the churches here in our country, especially whenever it comes to the Baptists. I'm very connected and know very much what's going on. And our churches, they are not tapping into that gold mine that they could be tapped into. And all it would take is just a very little bit of resources, and they could tap into a gold mine. But unfortunately, they're not. And I've already mentioned it to the Trump campaign several different times about how they need to be tapping into that. And because we both know that this election is going to come down to Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona. And Pennsylvania, number one, then Michigan and Arizona. And there are lots of churches in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona that they can be tapping into to get thousands of people out to vote. And so I just want to say this to the Trump campaign. If you guys are watching, or if you guys hear this, what can I do, or what can we do to help you to tap into that? We're doing everything we can with the limited resources that we have. But the Trump campaign has not unlimited resources, but they have a lot of resources that they can really be pushing. And especially Donald Trump with Twitter and Facebook and on Truth and all these different platforms that he has, that he could be really pushing, for the voter registration drive, as far as getting people to register to vote and then getting people to vote.
So all that's fantastic, Dan. I have an interesting historical question that I want to posit your way about this. So when I think about the American evangelical voting bloc, I imagine two different periods in recent history where they seemed to have the most power. One would be like the 1980s, so like the period of Reagan, and then George H.W. Bush, the so-called moral majority period, right? And then I think of the presidency of George W. Bush in the 2000s, right? That was also whenever the evangelicals in this country had a lot of political and cultural sway. So my question to you, Dan, is why do you think that ended? Why do you think that the real political and even cultural sway of the American evangelical really waned after, let's say, about 2008 with the election of Barack Obama?
Because of a lot of politicians, they make promises and they go to D.C. and they break them. I think it all started back with Bush. Whenever Bush was running for office and he had the evangelicals.
He did.
He had the evangelicals. And we beat, who was it? Al Gore. And Bush, was it Al Gore that Bush beat?
Yes.
And then he said, I'll never raise taxes, read my lips. And then he raised taxes. I mean,
So you think just the disappointment of the George W. Bush presidency really accounts for why the American evangelicals, even to this day, just don't have this kind of stock they once did?
For many people. And then in 2016, Trump got it. Trump got it back. And Trump made all these promises, and Trump kept his promises, and he did what he said he was going to do. And then so 2016, look, just think about the things that he promised. He promised that he was going to appoint conservative Supreme Court nominees. He did 3. Roe gets overturned. He promised that he was going to move the embassy to Jerusalem. He did it. He promised that he was going to pull us out of wars. He did it. He promised that, all kind of things Donald Trump promised. And then what did the left do? COVID. Pretty much stolen election,
There's no pretty much about it.
Yeah.
They did.
Going to the, and so you had all that happening. And then 2020, evangelicals the excitement wasn't there. because of so many things that went on, because of so much attack that came against the church with COVID. And the Democrat Party was smart. They were smart. You had all of these governors everywhere shutting down churches. That was the last thing that should have happened, was shutting down churches, shutting down businesses. And so it really dampened.
Or even requiring people to get vaccinated before they go into a church, like I saw many churches, even here in Mississippi, doing. What a disgrace.
And so you had all of that happening and taking place, and it just knocked out that light. It was just like taking a light and a candle and taking a water hose or a fire or a water gun and just dampening that light. And that's what happened. And so, but now I'm hoping, and I'm really praying, and I'm seeing a little bit, not as much as I wish, but I'm seeing just a little bit of evangelicals again getting fired up about getting to the polls in November. And if we don't, it goes back to, like you said in the beginning of the show, you're going to have the difference of World War III and lower groceries. I mean, our freedoms. I mean, everything that we believe in as Americans, are at stake. All of them. You have a man that is running for the vice president of America. I know I've said this once, but just think about this for a moment. He put tampons in boy bathrooms. I mean, how stupid, how perverted can you be?
That's incredibly dumb. I will say this, strategically, I'm not sure it actually benefits conservatives to talk about, Tim Walz doing that. As goofy and as hilarious as it is.
Dumb.
It's a Babylon Bee headline is what it is. Here's my question to you, strategically. Do moderates really care about tampons in boys' bathrooms? Conservatives obviously care about that, and liberals care very much about it, but they have the opposite feeling we do. Do moderates in the Rust Belt really care about that issue, or do they care about the gas and groceries, which is Trump's bread and butter here, and the border?
They do care about gas and groceries, but I'm just using it for an example of
Right,
just how just ludicrous these two people are. But yeah, people are more concerned about gas and the price of milk and the price of eggs and those type of things, which if Donald Trump is elected, those things are going to come back down. Interest rates on your house, the buying power of being able to buy a home for your family, those interest rates are going to come down. It's going to drive down insurance, drive down interest rate. All of those things come down, and that leaves more money in our pockets, more money to spend on our families, more money to take vacations, more money to go out to dinner, more money to do all of these things that we enjoy as Americans. And so it goes back to, if we're going to win this election, I believe it's going to come down to the evangelicals. That's just what I believe. It's going to come down to the evangelicals, because we're going to broaden our views. We're going to broaden
to appeal to the middle.
Come on, really? You think somebody that believes it's okay to murder babies is going to vote for you all because we're going to beef it up to 26 weeks, so we're going to try to get those? No, what happens is you lose evangelicals. And those are the people that are the backbone of the Republican Party winning elections, is the evangelicals. And so that's where our message needs to be more geared toward the evangelicals and to that moderate base whenever it comes to things such as gas, things such as the economy, things such as the things that people care about. When you start laxing up on abortion, you lose evangelicals.
So I'm with you 100%. I want to ask you another kind of strategic question, if I may. So Donald Trump has really bothered me the last couple of days with his commentary about Iran. I'm just going to say this right now. I don't believe that Iran is trying to assassinate Donald Trump. Is Iran angry because Trump murdered Soleimani? Yes, of course they are. Does Iran want Trump dead more than the CIA does? I don't think so. So this narrative that Iran is out to assassinate Donald Trump, I just don't believe this. However, like I said, the question I want to ask you is a strategic question. Whenever it comes to gaining support among evangelicals, I think that being more or less hawkish in your rhetoric about the Middle Eastern world is a good way to do that. Do you think maybe this is why Trump is coming out as strong as he is about Iran with some of his commentary over the last couple of days? Because he wants to look strong in front of the evangelical voters.
I could see that, but I don't think anybody really knows what Donald Trump, was thinking. I don't think anybody.
I love the man, but just like that really bugged me. Avril Haines, you know who Avril Haines is?
Yeah.
She was the one who debriefed Trump on that, and she's one of the co-architects of the Russia collusion hoax. Avril Haines is not one of Donald Trump's friends. She is an enemy, and he does not need to be taking debriefings from her very seriously. So, is it possible that Iran is trying to kill Trump? Sure, it's possible, but I wouldn't believe anything that comes out of Avril Haines' mouth.
Listen, I think you're right. I think Iran would love to see Donald Trump dead. I think Iran would love to see Joe Biden dead. I think Iran would love to see you dead, me dead. I think Iran would love to see Kamala Harris dead. I think Iran would love to see Bush dead, Bill Clinton dead. I think Iran would love to see all of us dead, to be honest with you.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think Iran's a friend to any of us. But I think that the CIA and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden would much rather see Donald Trump dead, almost probably more than Iran. You know,
Yep.
if you just want to get right down to it. And so I did read to where they finally bumped up his Secret Service to full capacity, which that's crazy that it took 2 assassination
Oh yeah,
attempts.
just 2 assassination attempts later, no
Yeah.
big deal.
And so after twice, now we're going to bump up his Secret Service to full capacity. So what does that tell you?
But they did it at the same time that they released that letter. You saw the letter with the $150,000 bounty on Trump's head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they beef up his Social Security briefing, his detail, right as they release a letter featuring a $150,000 bounty on Trump's head. It's utterly bonkers.
Yeah. So we have to have 2 assassination attempts, and now we're going to up his Secret Service detail. So what does that tell you, America? What does that tell you? Does that tell you that? I mean, just think about this for a moment, Reed. If I'm the president of the United States of America, and if it's Bill Clinton, if it's Obama, if it's I don't care who it is, if they are a former president, right? A former president, and there's an assassination attempt. First off, he's going to get everybody that he needs for secret. He's going to be out full capacity Secret Service. If there are attempts on his life, he's going to have full Secret Service. I don't care if it's Obama, if it's Bill, I don't care who it is. He was the president of the United States of America. You can dislike the guy, you can hate him, do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, he was the president of the United States of America. You give him a full Secret Service detail, especially that he's the Republican nominee and past president. You give him a full Secret Service detail, 100%. He has everybody that he possibly needs, and plus more if he needs it. If the stakes are even higher, you give him everybody that he needs. But that's not what they did. Very limited. And then look at some of the people that was on that detail. I mean, I could holster my gun better than that one lady. I could probably outshoot, her easily, whenever it comes to his Secret Service detail. So you tell me they want him alive or dead.
I think we know the answer.
Yeah. So it happens one time.
That wasn't enough of a wake-up call. Oh yeah, former president got shot in the face. Oh, no big deal. Yeah.
And a guy puts a ladder on a roof. He's 130 yards away from the president.
He's in plain sight. Have you seen all the footage that's come out where you see this guy walking clearly?
So they would love to see him dead. And then it happens again, a second time. They would love to see him dead.
And then, after it happens the second time, they release a letter featuring a $150K bounty on his head. So, do you remember it was last year after the shooting in Nashville at the school? There was the shooting that happened at the Covington School there in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah. The FBI would not release. It might have been 2 years ago. The FBI would not release the shooter's letter because they said it was too dangerous. But just days after a second assassination attempt on Trump, they'll release a letter featuring a $150,000 bounty on his head. That tells you everything you need to know about the depths this current administration, this regime is willing to go in order to make sure they stay in power.
When Bill Clinton became president, there was a country, and forgive me for not knowing the country. I want to say it was Iraq. One of those countries over there made a threat against Bush, former President Bush. Bill Clinton. This is Bill Clinton sent I forget how many missiles and blowed up a bunch of stuff over there in that country because and you can Google and read about it because they made threats against former President Bush. Now we have a president, Joe Biden, and a vice president, Kamala Harris, that is letting people get within 150 yards of a live past president.
So Ryan Ruth, the attempted assassin behind the second attempted assassination, do you know what country he was in just before he came back to the United States?
Mm-mm.
He was in Ukraine. Ryan Routh, however you pronounce his last name, he was in Ukraine fighting as a foreign mercenary on behalf of the Ukrainian government. He became radicalized over there in Ukraine, came back to the United States, and then tried to assassinate Donald Trump. That's something interesting, right?
That's one of about 10,000 reasons why we need to stop every bit of money going to Ukraine. Let them fight their own war. If they want to fight, let them fight. Do whatever they want to do, but we have to pull back. We have to pull back. Let's talk about. I want to talking about the election. Let's talk about this quickly. Whenever it comes to these swing states, and whenever it comes to the president of the United States of America, this election coming up in November. So I'm gonna throw these numbers at you, Reed. The national poll, it has Harris up 3.4%. The national poll. Arizona, swing state, we need to win Arizona. It has Donald Trump up 1.5% right now, and so that's after 6 polls, and the last poll was just done today. And so all these polls are the last updated polling numbers. And listen, I get it. I know the polls, not the election. We have to get the people out to vote. I understand every bit of that, but I still like to look at polls and kind of see the trend and the direction that things are going. So Arizona, Trump's doing good. He's up 1.5%. In Georgia, Trump's up 1.2%. He's doing good. And in Michigan, Harris is up 4%. Harris is up 4%. That was the last poll was done today. And so that's average. They've taken 6 of the main polls, and then they took today's poll and they averaged them together, and she's up 4%. So she's at 49.2. Trump's at 45.2 whenever it comes to the election there. And Pennsylvania, Harris is up 1.2%. And so, of course, that's the average.
And that's before all the voter fraud.
Yeah.
See, Donald Trump doesn't have to beat Kamala Harris. He has to defeat all the voter fraud that the Democrats are going to do behind Kamala Harris.
Absolutely. And so that's the average of 12 polls. And of course, the last poll was done today. And so you have Harris up 1.2%. And so whenever you look at polls, even in Texas, Trump is up 5.6%. And so whenever you look at polls, here's what a lot of people don't understand about polls. If you want a true concept of a poll, you have to dive into the poll, right? Let me give you an example. Who do they poll, right? How many Republicans did they poll? How many Democrats did they poll? How many independents did they poll? What was the age of the people that they polled? How many women? How many men did they poll? How many? What was their age? Where did they live? What was their? How much money do they make a year? I mean, there's lots of things that you got to look into a poll. I can get anything I want out of a poll. If you poll 18237, Highway 53 for the presidential election, it's going to be 100% Trump, right? If you poll 18303, it's going to be 100% Donald Trump. And so you got to look at a lot of demographics of the poll. You just can't take the poll for face value. And then the other thing you got to look at the poll is that poll is not the election. And so what happens is they want to try to put these polls out there and say, well, Harris is way up, so Donald Trump can't win, to try to get people to stay at home. And that's what they want to do. That's why they take some of these polls and they want to kind of skew them to the left. And so they try to get people to stay at home. We got to understand something. I just read you these polls to just give you an example of what they're polling. But we can't pay any attention to these polls when you look at the big picture of things as far as pushing to get out and vote. When I see a poll that has Harris up 4%, that does not discourage me in the least. That makes me want to work even harder to make sure that we get out. We got to get out more people to vote. And so, but it has the opposite effect on some people. They say, well, we're not going to win, we just can't vote. Reed, I've had people tell me they stole the last election, they're going to steal this one, so we don't need to vote.
I'm hearing that a lot too.
We have got to get out and vote. More than ever, we have got to get out and vote. And I know I've said this, I'm going to keep saying it. That's why we got to register people to vote. And then we got to make sure that we get people to the polls. We've got to get them to the polls because it doesn't matter what the polls say. Let's break it down a little further. Most polls, a good poll is 1,000 people, right? When you look at a statewide poll, 1,000 people is a good poll. So you take 1,000 people and say that poll, like we just saw, let's see here, let's take Georgia. So we'll take 1,000 people in Georgia. Trump has right at 49.1%. Harris is at 47.9%. So Donald Trump will be at 499 people, and she's going to be at like 477, 78 people, maybe a little more. So when you look at those numbers, Trump 499 out of 1,000, and then Harris has 496 out of 1,000, 495 out of 1,000. Those numbers are very close, right? Are all 494 of those people going to go out and vote?
Nope.
For Harris? No.
Nope.
Are all 498 of those people going to go out and vote for Trump? No. So we've got to get more of our people out to vote than what Harris gets out to vote of hers. Whenever you look at Arizona, or no, let's go look at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, take 1,000 people. She's at 400. She'll have 48.5%. So she's going to be at 400 and about, I guess, 495, 494 votes. Trump's going to be around 485, 486 votes. So are all those people going to go out and vote? No. So we've got to get out more of our people to the polls. And so that's in every single state. That's in Pennsylvania. These numbers are so close, like 1.2%, 3%. I mean, those numbers are so close that they're all within the margin of error. So we can win this election. We can win it in a landslide if we just get our people out to vote.
The evangelicals chiefly, like you were saying a minute ago.
Absolutely.
And you were 100% right about polls. Polls do not exist to reflect public opinion. They exist to shape it. And we have to be on guard against that.
Absolutely. And so whenever they say we're up 4%, they say Kamala Harris is up 4%. Probably the reality of it is Donald Trump's probably up 2 or 3%.
Right.
And whenever they say Donald Trump's up 1.2%, Donald Trump's probably up 5-6%.
They're always trying to skew the results in favor of the Democrat. Always.
100%. Because here's another thing about polls. Polls help them raise money. It helps them raise money. And the Democrat Party, forgive me, Republicans, but the Democrat Party does a whole lot better when it comes to messaging than the Republican Party does.
I don't think that Republicans would disagree with you.
They do much better. Not only do they have much more money than we have, but they do much better whenever it comes to messaging. And
It's
so,
pretty easy to message whenever you're promising to people that you're going to give them free stuff. When you're promising to steal from Peter and give to Paul, it's pretty easy to win Paul's support.
yeah, I agree. But at the end of the day, we've got to get people out to vote. And if we'll do that, I think we're going to win. I believe we are. If we can just get the people out to vote. If we can get people to register to vote and then get them out to vote. And as far as registering to vote, that's coming to an end. You can't register to vote. I think it's within 30 days of the election. I think it's 30 days. Yeah, 30 days within the election. So that's coming. We're almost there. I mean, we're just a few weeks away. Right at 40 days, maybe a little over 40 days of the election. And so it's so close. And so we have got to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to get people to the polls. You take a state like Mississippi. Reed, do you think Donald Trump's going to win Mississippi?
Gee, I don't know, Dan. Seems pretty. No, of course, yeah.
So, yes, I think Donald Trump's going to win Mississippi. So what can we be doing in Mississippi to help in other states? What can you do to help in Pennsylvania? What can you do to help in Michigan, help in Arizona? I mean, get out a phone book, for crying out loud, and start calling into these states. You can go on Donald Trump's website and you can sign up to be a volunteer, and you can start calling into these states and making phone calls and getting people in these states to go and vote. And so, which is very, very important if we're going to win, this election. Reed, I want to get into one other issue that we were talking about earlier. And then whenever you look at, because there's been a lot of talk about it, the war, World III. And you start looking at as this world begins to shapen up, I believe for the return of Christ. And I believe that the return of Christ, I believe it could be soon. I believe it could be, I'm not one of these guys that give a date, right? Or a date. The Bible says that he's going to come as a thief in the night.
Correct. And I'm not one of those guys either. And I'm also not one of these guys who's going to scream doomsday, the end is near either, because none of us know. We really don't know, but it's obviously possible.
So I believe it can be close. I believe it can be any time. And so a lot of Christians say that. And they say, well, we're just going to hold on till the end. We're just going to endure till the end. That is not the attitude or the spirit that we as Christians can have. No matter what's happening in the world, no matter what's going on in the world, we can succeed. We can have joy. We can have peace. We can flourish. The Bible talks about a candle. You take a candle. Read. When does a candle shine the brightest?
At the very end.
In the darkest of night.
Well, yeah, there you go. That too.
In the darkest of night. So the darker it gets, the brighter the candle. The brighter the candle. So we as Christians are to be shining really bright. I mean, the church ought to be shining really bright. And so many Christians are just, we're going to coast into the end. We're just going to put it on cruise control. That can't be the spirit of the church. That can't be the spirit of you and I. We cannot say, we're just going to hold on till the end. We're just going to endure till the end. No, no, no. We've got to put the gas to the floor, man. We've got to crank this thing up. We got to do all that we can. We are nearing the end. But bless God, I'm living like I got 50 years left. And we're going to push. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that we win. Someone said to me the other day, they sent me this long email. And he said, "You act like Donald Trump's the answer, and you're a preacher and you're a Christian. Don't you think that that it doesn't matter who the president is? That, I mean, God is still on the throne?" I said, "Absolutely, God's still on the throne. But my Bible says that the righteous rejoice, that the people rejoice when the righteous are in rule." I said, as a Christian, I want a president that has the values that I have, or at least as close to what I have. I want a president that believes that you shouldn't kill a baby. I want a president that believes that you shouldn't have drag queens dancing in front of children. I want a president that believes that marriage is between a man and a woman. I want a president that believes in the economy and less taxes. That's the kind of president that I want. I don't want a president that believes the exact opposite of what I believe. I want a president that believes in the foreign policy that I believe in. I want a president that believes in religious liberty. I want a president that believes that you and I have the right to bear arms. I want a president that upholds the Constitution. I want a president that believes in these things that I believe as a Christian. I want a president that believes in that the Constitution, we should live by it, and we should operate by it. We should not be trying to change it to fit, what we want to believe. I believe that and that's the kind of president that I want. I don't want a president that wants to put tampons in the guy bathrooms. I don't want a president that wants to put a baby on a table and let this baby, and just get it comfortable and then let a mom kill it. That is murder. I don't want a president like that. And so, Christian, we need a push. We need to give it everything we can. Yes, the rapture could take place tonight. And we should live like that. And we should push like that. Not having this spirit and this attitude of we're just going to endure to the end. We're just going to hold on till the end. No, we got to push. We got to do all that we can for our children's children.
Everything you just said was fantastic, Dan. I agree with that. And to tie that to World War III, the topic we were discussing, just prior, whenever you have imperialism abroad, you're going to have cultural decay at home. Whenever your government parasitically takes money, takes joy, takes wealth from people, uses that money that it taxes from people here at home to buy weapons and bomb people abroad, turn the rest of the world against us, create so much animosity towards us, you're going to end up with moral decay. You're going to end up with unrest. You're going to end up with confusion here at home. So all of those things you just described, from economic prosperity to having, an end to abortion, which I hope that I can see in my lifetime, absolutely, to having an end to all this crazy stuff happening in our public schools, like grown men dancing in front of like little kids and whatnot. Bringing an end to all of that is going to be a lot easier whenever we bring an end to this imperial superstate that our government has become around the rest of the world.
I agree. And whenever you look at the world and you look at, let's take this a step further. I know we're running out of time, but I want to mention this. America would you agree that America is a beacon of the gospel?
It should be.
It should be. Would you believe that right now when you look at the world, that America is the beacon? I believe that it is still. Not because it's shining so bright, but because there's just not a whole lot of other countries that are getting the job done. The freer we are, would you agree that we can do more to get the gospel out?
Yes.
I'm not just talking about freedom whenever it comes to, some people take freedom, they say, well, I can go and do what I want. They take that as, that's all the freedom that I need.
Yeah, to them, liberty is just licentiousness.
Yeah. I'm talking about the freedom of your wallet. Let's talk about your wallet for
the freedom of conscience, or the freedom of religion, the freedom of assembly.
Absolutely. And a lot of that comes back and ties to the gospel, as far as getting the gospel out. We are so tied down whenever it comes to taxes. We are so tied down to whenever it comes to such things as that we are not as free as what we might want to be. Let's just see how free you really are. You quit paying taxes. Government's going to come and put you in jail. Quit paying property tax. I don't owe anything on my home. My home's paid for. But if I quit paying property tax, they're going to come and take my home. My taxes are almost $3,000 a year. That's what I pay in property tax. I say, I'm going to not pay property tax anymore. Reed, you know what's going to happen? They're going to come take my home. How free am I? My tag is out of my vehicle. It goes out this month. Actually, it goes out at the end of this month, so I've got a couple more days. Let October 1st get here and let me keep driving that vehicle without that tag. Guess what's going to happen, Reed? I'm going to get a ticket. There's so many things that we talk about freedom. And I do believe that we live in the greatest nation in the world and that we are very free in that sense. I do believe that.
We're the best house in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah. That's very well put. So when it comes to this election, I'm coming back to this election. It's the most important election of our lifetime. When you look at the world, it's the most important election of our lifetime. When you look at our families, it's the most important election of our lifetime. When you look at our churches, it's the most important election of our lifetime. When you look at our pocketbooks, it's the most important election of our lifetime. When you look at our children's children, our future, it's the most important election of our lifetime. Whenever you look at interest rates, it's the most important election in our lifetime. Whenever you look at the price of groceries, it's the most important election of our lifetime. Whenever you look at our troops, our military, it's the most important election of our lifetime. That's why we got to do everything we can to get people to register. That's why we got to do everything we can to get people out to vote. Why? Not just for 2024, but for 2025, 2026, 2027, 2030, 2040, 2050, moving forward. Because our future depends upon it. It depends upon it. Reed, I've enjoyed this show today. I've enjoyed talking and getting into all the things that we got into and talked about. I know we've missed, the last week for different reasons. One, because of a hurricane, and then last week we had something at my church that I had to deal with unexpectedly. And as far as a church family with a death and there's someone about to die, but I've enjoyed today and being back on and getting back in the swing of things of God and country. And so, Reed, before I close out, do you have any closing remarks?
No, Dan, I don't. This was a fantastic episode. Go get yourself a cup of coffee, okay?
My wife is going to bring me, she probably went and got her some coffee because I'm sure she knows it's coffee appreciation day or whatever you called it earlier. But I'm going to stick to my sweet tea. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. If you're watching this on X, please retweet it. If you're watching on Facebook, share it. If you're watching on YouTube, copy and paste the link. If you're watching it on Substack, share it. Share it everywhere you can. It helps us get around these algorithms and some of these social media platforms that don't want this message out. In order to get this message out, we need you. We need you to help us. We need you to share it. And it'll help get out this message. The message of life. The message of liberty. The message of the pursuit of happiness. The message of lower taxes. The message of pro-life. The message of the Second Amendment. The message of the Constitution, which I think is important. God bless you. And may God continue to bless the great United States of America.
Hey guys, it's Reed here. I don't say this about a lot of people, but I have to say Mike Lindell is a real patriot, and we could not be more thankful to him and MyPillow for sponsoring today's episode of God and Country. Remember, go to MyPillow.com and save huge on a great night of sleep by entering the promo code Midnight Ride. Thanks.